There are separate meetings on infrastructure going on in the nation's capital right now, and there's been growing concern that all of these distractions, however you want to put it, are getting in the way of making much progress on that the administration does reportedly have a $1 trillion plan to address infrastructure, but that has already prompted angry responses from those who've been waiting for that funding, for that money. This, for example, from Richard Trumka, the president of the AFL-CIO. My question to the White House and Congress is this: where is the bill? It's go time. Bring legislation to the floor, and the labor movement will help you pass it. To former Transportation Secretary Ray LaHood. Obviously, a lot of impatience there, Secretary, and welcome to you. What do you make of that? It's a lot easier said than done, obviously, to get going on this, but it's a big, big figure, $1 trillion. How likely is it?
Well, Neil, first of all, thank you for being interested in infrastructure today in an otherwise very busy day. Those of us that care about infrastructure really appreciate it. And I think the stars are still aligned pretty carefully and pretty closely to get a bill. Secretary Elaine Chao, Secretary of Transportation, gave a very good speech yesterday, very positive speech, talking about the idea that the Trump administration wants to put forward a big, bold plan and the money. And so all of us that have been waiting for an infrastructure bill are still very encouraged. 10 days ago, President Trump talked about raising the gas tax to get some of the resources. Secretary Chao yesterday talked about public-private partnerships to get the money. I'm still encouraged, Neil.
In other words, bottom line,
really
whether it's $1 trillion or not, you think that it is still coming. It might be a couple of weeks off, but it's still coming. I didn't realize until today, sir, that a lot of that, the whole WannaCry and the internet, pirating that's been going on, that is under the umbrella of infrastructure as well. And do you think that that then gets addressing in whatever package the administration and Congress come up with?
I think it's certainly logical to consider it there, and particularly when you look at how vulnerable the FAA is in terms of all the people in the FAA who guide planes in and out of airports, and cybersecurity is very, very important in that arena for sure.
You mentioned airlines, so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this other news development, sir, that we're going to expand our crackdown on laptops coming to and from countries we deem to be dangerous. It used to be largely in the Middle East. It's extended to points of, I believe, Eastern Europe, but it might involve a lot more countries than earlier thought. We just don't know what those countries are. What do you think of this? Someone is concerned about something.
Yeah, Neil, I think there needs to be a much better explanation of this. I don't know the distinction, really, between putting laptops in the belly of the plane as opposed to in the plane. If they're in the belly of the plane, I assume that they're still susceptible to some kind of activity, but it needs to be better explained. We know the countries that are named are, some of those countries are safe harbor for right. Terrorists, but the idea of the technology being in a different place, I don't know exactly, how that really makes them safer than if they were in the plane. And I just think a better explanation is really needed.
Do you think air travel today has just gotten nuts? I mean, with some of these incidents that a lot of people capture on their smartphones, but a lot of unruly passengers, a lot of equally unruly flight attendants. Maybe it's just that they're crowded up there, tempers are short up there, sometimes before we even get up there, before we even leave the ground. Does this require a government response, or are these just taken out of context and air travel itself is just fine?
While we were at the DOT, we put into place the Passenger Bill of Rights, which said you can't be on a tarmac for more than 3 hours, and, a number of other things that we thought were helpful to passengers. I certainly think DOT has an obligation to look at what's going on in the airlines. Look, people are a little bit nervous as they go through the security lines.
Right.
They're a little bit nervous when they get on the planes. They're a little bit nervous in the cramped quarters. And there has to be a sensitivity to all of this on the part of the airline industry that, people today are nervous about flying. And some of these incidents, perhaps could have been prevented by good training from the airline industry.
Secretary, I think one of the most brilliant things you did under your stewardship when you did that Passenger Bill of Rights is it allowed people who were stuck on a tarmac to go to the bathroom after a while.
Exactly.
So my bladder personally appreciated that. But let me get your sense, or finally, you see what's going on here with everything in the Trump administration. It's not your purview, I grant you, but that it is getting in the way of some of the other items he wants to get done, whether it's this infrastructure thing that you alluded to or tax cuts, whether you agree or disagree. But when I look at the markets, Secretary, they seem to all think it's going to work out and it's still coming. Are you, or do these kind of distractions, and you've seen them and you've worked under Republican and Democratic administrations alike, but do you worry that this is going to get in the way and maybe define the Trump administration, whether he likes it or not?
Yeah, look, at the one cautionary thing I would say, I've been in politics 35 years. I've watched a lot of presidents. Every president gets their first year to get 2 or 3 big things done. And I hope they don't blow it. I am still optimistic that they'll probably get some tax reform and they'll get an infrastructure bill. But if those things don't happen by August, Neil, they've blown it. You get
really?
About a year.
So they get it by Neil, August, or the outline of it, or is it a vote by then?
Yeah, I mean, then Congress goes home for the month of August, and then they come back, and then a year from now, Neil, every member of Congress will be worried about their reelection. They've got until about August or September to really do a couple big things. I'm optimistic they will do it because the president's still talking a lot about it. Now, you know, we got to get Congress moving.
All right. Secretary, very good seeing you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Neil.